Welcome to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Samboys. We're so excited today to bring to you one of my favorite people in the world. I have worked with him in the community. I have seen him being an awesome father, husband, and really servant leader, and an author. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But today I want to introduce you, Kenny Hampton, and I would like you to take a moment and share with our, listeners a little bit about you, your experience, and what do you want to share with them today?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for even having me. It's been a joy being able to work alongside Maylin in the community. She's doing incredible things, so I'm excited to even have this opportunity to partner with her once again on this incredible platform. Kenny R. Hampton, I tell you what, I'm just a husband, father, and a servant leader. That's who I am, what I do, speaker, author, mentor, coach, whatever you want to throw as far as any type of leadership, that's me. But more importantly, I'm a servant leader. I love being able to pour into the lives of other people, being a former pro athlete and trying to knock down that door, becoming a professional athlete and falling a little short. I feel that my passion is to turn around and help others. So my passion is to sow spiritual and mental guidance into the lives of others. More importantly, not by what I say, but more so with what I do, how I live my lifestyle. So podcast, speaking engagements, like that's all what I'm about, so that I can extend the reach of that message to help empower other people. So I'm excited.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. We are so excited that you're here. Thanks for saying yes.
Not a problem at all.
Now, I know a couple athletes that have had a dream and desire to be, right?
Right.
Famous. And this is, since 5 years old, right?
Yeah.
The whole family. So you're tall.
Yeah.
Okay, you can play basketball. Oh, you're strong. You can play football.
Yep.
And all of this are dreams that are put into young people, especially men, right? When it comes to this type of things. So you said a couple of things in your introduction. You said, I did this. I fell a little short. What was that like and what happened? Can you share with us?
Yeah, well, growing up, first of all, I'm from the city of Detroit, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. And I fell in love with sports at the age of 4. Mom and dad, they kept me on a softball diamond, right? So softball was big in Detroit in the 80s. And you would find me with a big orange plastic bat with a white plastic ball, asking anybody I could to, pitch me the ball so I can hit the ball as far as I could, right? And I just embraced sports. So I was really, really good at it. At baseball, and I wanted to pursue professional sports so that it could be a vehicle to take me and my family to some cool places, buy us a brand new home or buy a brand new car for mom and dad. And so I did all I could to get myself in position to achieve that goal. I got an athletic scholarship to Kentucky State University to play baseball, had some pro opportunities. Those fell short. And ended up playing football, which I never played organized football until my senior year of college, right? So I didn't play any little league, any high school ball. My parents even sent me to a high school that didn't have a football team on purpose, so I wouldn't even play the sport. So I did that and knocked on the door with some pro opportunities in football. Ended up having a really, really strong collegiate campaign of just 2 years of college football. But when life told me that sports would be no more for me as far as an athlete, that was difficult to digest. I pivoted and I did okay with the initial shock, but it was years later when it really set in, when I would watch Sports Center and my stomach would turn because I was no longer in position to even achieve that goal that some friends of mine achieved, or that some competition that I had, beat out in a workout, they found themselves in position to even be on that platform and I wasn't. And it was hard. I battled depression. I battled regret, identity crisis, and things like that. But I found a way to muscle through it because I looked back over my life and realized that everything that I had gone through had worked together for my good. So that's why you hear me talk so much about Romans 8:28. And it's even deeper with me because I was born on August 28th.
Oh, wow.
So those numbers, 8:28 and then Romans 8:28, it became my purpose. So that's how I was in position now to even exist and be confident in who I am
Yeah.
because I stand on that. So
I love that, because I think you brought it up kind of, vaguely with a lot of times, especially with young people that see themselves playing professional sports. There's a lot of energy that goes into being the athlete, practices, the mentoring, learning the games, learning the routines, the plays. But then there's not a lot of intention all the time around beyond the athlete.
That's true.
What happens when you don't get drafted? What happens if you don't get that college scholarship? What's next? And so then, oftentimes young people feel like, well, my life is over, because all I've ever been told was I was going to play football, I was going to play basketball, I was going to, whatever that one thing is.
Yep.
So how did you find yourself, when you obviously knew, your sports career was over in that capacity?
Yeah.
Well, how did you shift from okay, it might be over in this capacity, but I could still support within the NFL, or I could support within youth, in sports? How did you make that shift in your mind, that mindset shift?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's spot on with a piece of my journey that I didn't get a chance to elaborate on, which is when I was done playing, I was able to go into NFL scouting. So sports, or I should say, professional sports offers a lot of opportunities. It's not just being an athlete. There's so many ways to get compensated by the NBA or the NFL or the MLB. And I found myself in position to be able to work with the scouting department. And I had a cool experience for 4 years to go all over the country, to go to work out athletes at NFL, practice facilities, some of the actual NFL stadiums where the games are played. So I never got an NFL check as an athlete or a player, but I was getting compensated and had checks from the NFL as a scout. So I encourage a lot of our youth to look at it in its totality, and not just only look at it as one door being open, being an actual player, because you can go into operations, you can go into scouting, you can go into personnel. There's so many ways that you can be a part of the professional organization and family, that you don't want to just limit yourself to that one pursuit. And I get it, it's difficult, because for the first 24, 26 years of our lives, all we do is eat, sleep, and drink that one opportunity, that one vehicle. But I look at it as such. It's just a vehicle. And certain vehicles, they're intended to drive us to some certain destinations. And when they stall, just hop out of that vehicle and let's hop into another one and drive that one as far as we could. Because I only drove the scouting vehicle for 4 or 5 years, but it opened up so many doors. So I just look at the experience or the pursuit a little different now. I look at it and I like to encourage athletes to see it as a stepping stone, because it's allowing you to get in some rooms that you may not have gotten into had you didn't pursue it as an actual player.
Yeah.
So
that makes total sense. And I think even it could apply for, even if you're not an athlete, you
Absolutely.
might, I think some of us, we think of oh, I want to work for this company, but they won't hire me because I don't have enough experience. But going in as an intern, going to their networking events, creating an opportunity, even if there's not an actual path laid out for you.
Absolutely.
So I think that, to your point, it's just, really it's about seizing the opportunity, seizing the moment, but creating that and being intentional. So if you find yourself working somewhere that you're like, I hate working here, or this is not this is not my, I always thought I was going to be this, or my parents told me to go to school for that, and now I'm here and I hate it.
Yeah.
Because how many of you arrive at what you thought you always wanted.
Right.
And then you get there and you're like, actually, I don't like this at all. You're
true.
following someone else's dream at that point.
That's true.
And so did you find anywhere kind of in your journey thus far, you mentioned earlier, possible even imposter syndrome a little bit. At any point, did you feel like you were doing things not because you really wanted it, more of what was expected out of you?
Yeah. And that's something it's hard to get away from, because being the oldest of four, you want to do everything the right way, or you're living according to what other people want you to do, other people's expectations, right? And sometimes, if not all the time, that will lead you down a path of disappointment, because you're not even thinking or considering like, what do you really want to do? Every move you make, you're hoping and you're anticipating like this seal of approval from someone else because it's someone else's expectations. But you never took time to just ask yourself, what do you really, really want? Now, in my situation, I really, really wanted to be a professional athlete. So I didn't mind doing that. But at the same time, there were times where I'm like, all right, I'm ready to like give this stuff up. Like, this is just not working. But then I'll think to myself, like, I don't want to disappoint mom and dad.
Right.
I want to really take care of my siblings. There's just so many other elements to it for that decision to be made. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do that. So I would probably like continue to push, knowing that I'm losing love for this pursuit.
Right.
I'm losing the drive that's necessary. But one of the things that I always share with my mentees is that build relationships, build those relationships along the journey to help you make some decisions, to help you get to a place where you're like, all right, I feel okay with not doing this anymore, or I want to network a little bit better so that if an opportunity opens up, like my scouting opportunity, that came from me building a relationship with the director of the combines. But you got to think about it. I was going to workouts where it was like 300 plus athletes at the workouts. So how did I find myself in position to even have a conversation with this director, build that relationship, and then be in position to have an offer to come on staff, which I was excited about. And again, it gave me that like validation, like, well, hey, mom and dad, I didn't make it as a pro, as a player, but hey, look at this. Right. And I was able to like allow them to experience that experience of professionalism and a sense of accomplishment. So again, like it all points back to everything working together for my good, because all of those experiences, all of those pivots, shortfalls, you mix them all together, the story ended up being a good one. So.
And you know that your parents loved you regardless.
Absolutely. Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. But that competitor in me just wanted to like really, really get to that level, because I knew the impact it could have on all of our lives. But the one thing that I really had to learn down the road is there's so many other ways to create and generate the wealth that you were trying to obtain through this vehicle, through this sport. So don't think that it's over because life or just circumstances tells you that professional sports is just not going to be your long-term career.
Right.
You figure something else out.
And understanding that that's not your identity. And I think a lot of times, right? I know someone personally that lost his whole head over this because he could no longer play what everybody expected him to play, right?
Yeah.
And then he got hurt, and then that just really was like a spiral going down. And I watch and I think of you, right? Because I met you literally as this was happening. I said, oh my God, here's an example that I can share to give hope. And how much I wish that, mentors and even coaches take the time to really talk to young people about like, you're awesome at this.
Yeah.
And you could also be awesome at this. Is not who you are. This is what you do.
Correct.
Right? So we can stop creating these people in our communities that are devastated.
Yeah.
When you can no longer do that dream that you had, that is all you dreamed of. You didn't dream of nothing else but that, right?
Yeah.
And that brings me to this. So I get your newsletter, which I love so much. Thank you. And one of your newsletters, you said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And that is actually a quote by Frederick Douglass. Can you share a little bit about how did that came about and why you share that with us?
Yeah, that's a powerful quote, and it's loaded with lots of I should say elements to it, right? Because when you talk about children, we always say that it takes it takes a village.
Right.
So the child gets that that village support. The child is like, oh, but we got to do all we can to help him or her. But when that child becomes an adult, that child still needs that village.
Right.
There's a lot of things that men we carry from our childhood. Like I just shared with you that my pursuit started at the age of 4, and then I progressed to my 20s, and then now I'm in my 30s. Well, there's some things that I'm still trying to, I wouldn't say heal, but I'm trying to just embrace whatever shortfalls or whatever, disappointments that I dealt with. So when I say that it's easier to build stronger, children, I do believe that that's the case, because if we start early and start young, like for example, Rolanda and I are raising, Kennedy. She'll be 16 here soon. And then our son KJ is about to be 9 years old. So we're laying a foundation. We're wrapping our arms around them. We're doing everything we can to be present in their lives. And so nothing but just like, number one, faith into their lives. And number two, just personal development so that we can build them up so that their character is strong and it's solidified, so that when life starts throwing them those curveballs and putting them in those, tough moments, they're able to tap into that so that they can withstand some of these things that's going to happen. But there's a lot of children that don't get that.
Right.
And so trying to repair and trying to help a 40-year-old man who has just dealt with so much trauma,
Right.
it's easier to help a child, because that man is going to have to allow time to pull off some of that weight of that hurt and disappointment. So that's where I like to play. I like to really help our men understand that, listen, bro, like I know that it hurts, but there's a formula that I have where I call it the Togethership formula. Highlights plus lowlights equals trophies. So our highs and our lows, when you combine them together, again, I'm talking about all things working together, it can present some of our shiniest trophies if you allow life to just show you, hey, bro, you still here. Like you persevered, you overcame whatever circumstance that tried to take you out. It was unsuccessful. And then you look back and say, hey, I got courage. I got something inside of me that I'm not going to quit. So when we have that, we can really help our men and it can become easier. But right now, it's a lot easier to build up stronger children than it is to heal broken men. So
yeah, I mean, I can definitely follow along exactly what you're saying too. And I think, we've talked about this with other guests, just the pressure that society puts, I think, on men, to kind of be like this, non-emotional, just this together warrior.
Yeah.
Even if things don't feel it, and it's,
knowing that we feel it, knowing that we hurt, like if it's hot and I touch it, trust me, we're men, we're gonna get burned too.
Yeah,
but we're like sometimes, we good with a burnt finger,
right? Even though it's like red, right? You're like, is that bleeding?
Right.
So you're right. I think I really appreciate you saying that, because I think there are a lot of men and women, that are out here just really hurting and really, keeping all of that bottled up, because that's either how they were raised to be, or that's just their defense mechanism. And, they really are not kind of head on facing that and dealing with the trauma and really trying to figure out, why you are the way that you are.
Right.
We watched something the other day with Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Oz, and she posed the question, what happened to you? That's part of her new book. And when she said that, I was like, okay. And she's like, if you think about it, when you ask somebody, what happened to you, then it will help people understand why we are the way that we are, why we respond the way we respond. And because I think oftentimes we make assumptions like, oh, they just don't want to change.
What's wrong with them?
That's just how they are. But if you can at least get some context to, the journey that these individuals have been through, that you've even been through. Because some of that, I think, is also self-reflection. Like, how often are you, just as a father, as an entrepreneur, as a community leader, like, how often do you even just sit with yourself and just say, like, all right, Kenny, like, where am I at? Like, what does that look like for you in terms of just like that self-regulation, that self-check?
Yeah, that's something that I am improving daily. Being a servant leader and really embracing this as much as I do, there are moments where I look around and I'm like, okay, I got to pour back into me because I've poured so much. Our kids laugh at me all the time, but this is my place. I'm famous for pulling into the driveway and just sitting in the car.
I do that all the time. My kids be looking out the window. Like, here doing that.
Like,
I'll talk to you in a minute.
I was like, are you coming in?
I don't know what it is about the comfort, the ambiance of being in my car.
You must have a nice car.
I don't, and that's the thing. I mean, it's a nice vehicle. You get the job done. It's far from like my dream car or anything.
Okay.
And that's the thing. I don't even think the kind of car matters.
Right.
It's more so the privacy, is more so the peace of mind. That, and I talked to another father about this as well. So the car is one, right? And then the other one is the shower. Like, and I,
you share the same pieces.
Yeah. My family laugh at me all the time because I'll take like 2 or 3 showers in a day because it's like, I know y'all not going to interrupt me in there. You're going to like leave me alone. Kids, dog, wife, everyone is going to be like, oh, he's in the shower. Goodbye. Like, okay, he has his time. So I'm thinking like, wait a minute, I found a place. So exactly. So my 10-minute shower can turn into a 15-minute shower because it's like they're not going to interrupt me. And they never do.
Do you come up with great ideas in the shower? Like, is that what you're ideas. Like? This is what Christina, like when she goes after a shower, is like, oh my God, guys, we're launching a book.
Listen, I'm telling you, some of the best ideas have been launched in the driver's seat of our vehicles and in the shower. And I come out, but a lot of problems and a lot of weight have been like washed off in the shower as well. So like, it allows me to have that sense of refreshing and renewing. I could be having my worst day ever. I go and take a shower. I come out of there and I say, all right, I'm good. I'll even listen to personal development in the shower or listen to some type of, positive music that's going to put me in a better place mentally.
That will be our podcast, but sure, go ahead and continue.
Hey, I'm just saying like that is, and I'm telling you, I listened to a couple of episodes and they're thebomb.com. So like, if you haven't tapped in to this podcast, I highly recommend you doing so. There's a lot of nuggets in here. Tons of value.
Thank you. That was awesome. I'm so excited. I'm like, you guys have a lot in common. That's why you're great. This is awesome. Now, I seen you as a servant leader. You have had experience working in some companies. Actually, we worked together in some capacity and form. But what kind of was your thing that made you determined to go into entrepreneurship?
Wow. Yes, I did have the opportunity to do some incredible things in my corporate world, my corporate experience. And it positioned me to be able to do what I'm doing now with entrepreneurship, because it taught me some valuable skills, organizational skills and structure and discipline, things like that, and leadership skills, right? But I've always been attracted to like doing my own thing, and so when I was trying to kind of figure out what that's going to look like, I'm like, all right, God, like, I'm kind of looking for the exit. That I'm looking for something else. What is going to be that next step? And I fell into life insurance as a broker, and it's a service. It's serving, because everything that I do, it has to align. So during that season of transitioning from corporate into entrepreneurship, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It was not this instant, okay, you're making, all these big bucks and you're doing it big. No, but that's what it looks like when you take these leaps. Right. You don't know really what's on that other side of that decision, but you just got to have just tap into your faith and understand that, listen, again, it's regardless of what happened, it got to work out for my good. So let me just go ahead and take the shot, because you miss every shot you don't take. And you can always resume your corporate career. I never want people to think that there's this seal of, or there's this badge of honor because, oh, you're an entrepreneur. It gets harder for you. And there's a lot of things you're still working your tail off where you should be if you want to be successful. So don't think that, just because you made that decision to come out of corporate, hey, it's like an easier path. No, it hasn't been. It's been a gauntlet for me is what it's been, but it has taught me so much about myself. I'm excited about other things that I'm doing. It allowed me to launch a book,
Right.
during that transition, and that has opened up so many cool doors and experiences that is opening up some other opportunities to collaborate with some really, really cool platforms such as this. And I'm excited about what's ahead. I've learned a lot about myself. I had to tighten up with my discipline, because in order to be a successful entrepreneur, you must be disciplined. And if you're not, you better tighten up quick.
You'll be dumb, right?
Or you be out of business.
You'll be back working for somebody else very quickly.
Listen,
Quick, fast, and in a hurry.
and you may appreciate it more now because you're like,
Yeah,
actually,
this is a lot. I'm just gonna go back.
these 10 hours are not bad. I was working 120, right?
Man,
It's
right.
just not that bad.
But I have a question for you, because Christina shared in the beginning of the episodes how
Okay.
exciting it was when she came home and quit her job and didn't tell her husband, right?
Okay.
And how not happy he was. And then you go from working corporate and having,
Right.
being the man, like the provider and all this wonderful stuff. And I
Yep.
know your wife works too, but, how was that conversation to be like, okay, babe, I'm going to take this leap of faith here. Take it with me.
Well, shout out to Rolanda. I mean, we've been in the game. It'll be 14 years for us in November this year. So we've been, in the trenches for quite some time. But she didn't really give me much hesitancy or resistance with that decision, because she knows that at the end of the day, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to
Right.
always make sure that the family is taken care of. I did present a plan to her for, the next 6 to 8 months of what, it could look like, what I had done financially to put us even in position to make that decision. So she really didn't give me much flack, and she really hasn't given me much flack throughout this journey. And that's just a testament to any of my servant leader, husbands and fathers out there. This pursuit or this journey is not about us. And in order for really to make this thing work, as far as like marriage or partnership, you got to become selfless. Because if you're selfish, then when you ask for opportunities or support and things like this, decisions like this, you might not get it, and it's going to be difficult. But if your family can see that everything you're doing is because you're trying to put them in a better position, or you're trying to like provide them the best lifestyle possible within your power, then they'll get behind you, and they'll be your cheerleading squad, your pep rally team. And that's how it is in our household. So, if I got to take a trip somewhere, if I have to go to a speaking engagement to take time away from the family, there is no question, there's no strain there, because they know if I wasn't doing that, then I'm doing something with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I tell her that all
I'm
the
present.
time. Yeah, because it's like if you have to be away from your family, like it better be like
It'll be good.
There's an opportunity on the table. It has to happen, and I talk a lot about just non-negotiables in general.
Yeah.
Like for me, my family is a priority to me, and so
Right.
being able to take my son or my daughter to school every morning, like that's something like now, God willing, I can do, but I won't take meetings before 10 a.m. unless I absolutely I have to, because that's a non-negotiable, and the kids know that they can depend on
I'm
me.
the
for
same
that.
way. Like I do not do meetings before 10 a.m.
Yeah, me either. I'm
And-
after
and
10.
no phone calls, drives to the school, like car rides. I had to share with someone early this week. I'll take this one call, but just know going forward, I don't have work conversations while I'm in my route to taking any of our kids to school. That's their time,
Right.
because I'm not going to get this time back.
Right.
We get one shot at raising our children, and we go back to like how it's easier to build strong children. Well, those are reps.
Right.
Every trip to the school, every car pick, ride home, those are reps. Those
Yeah.
are moments that if we don't take advantage of them and we give them to someone else, our children, they lose out on that. And I just refuse to have them come up short.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. And going back to your books, I was really, really excited. We actually have some copies that we're going to be giving away.
Awesome.
Yes, we are.
So the book is called The Underdog Mentality: Keys to Defeating Life's Giants.
Right.
And I think you've kind of already kind of given us some nuggets as to, you know, kind of what your mindset is in terms of creating habits, being intentional about your family, the transition into entrepreneurship. But really, what inspired you to write this book, and what is your hope that your readers are taking away from actually reading it?
Yeah, the inspiration behind the underdog mentality, keys to defeating life's giants, it really came from myself at the depths of depression, as like this is my vehicle out of it.
Okay.
Because 32, 33 years old, working corporate America, doing these great things. Like from the outside looking in, my life looked like Kenny's doing it. You know, he got a successful marriage. He has a beautiful family. They look like they're always having fun on social media. Right. And I mean, it's genuine. We are having fun. But as a man, as a competitor, I hated who I was. I literally would cry myself to sleep at night when my family would go to sleep because I could not stand the fact that I felt like I was a failure. And when it was clear as day, when God just told me, go to Romans 8:28. And when I did so, and then I had that whole purpose, you know, epiphany, like, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. From that moment on, I said, I got to tell my story. And I have to like help someone else. And that's where the underdog mentality was birthed. I was able to start just thinking of ways to get creative. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? I'll share something with you. This is funny. So the name of the book was originally supposed to be 8 Steps to Developing a Together Mindset. Now, if you saw that on the bookshelf at Borders or Barnes & Noble, you're going to keep walking by that like, whatever he's talking about.
Some people will get it.
He can have, that's if they knew me, like my mom and my dad. Yeah, maybe Mylene would. She would grab a copy like, I don't care what you're talking about, Kenny, I'm going to support you.
Right.
But that just wasn't it. So shout out to my mentor, Sean Blanchard out of Detroit. He has a program called Author Speaker Secrets. And he was able to help me kind of like dig deeper than just what this together mindset was. And rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. The Mamba mentality was another inspiration. And so we said, you know what? You're the underdog, Kenny. Like you've been an underdog your entire life. I mean, I was drafted into a developmental league to play professional football, and I only played 2 years of collegiate ball. Like, how does that happen? Right? So I went to workouts where I was competing against 200 wide receivers, and I ended up in the top 3. How does that happen? Yeah. I went from being in IT to being in, business development, doing some incredible things with this initiative, with this great company. And like, how does that happen? Like, right. I wrote my own job description. Like, how does that happen? Yeah. So I was a true underdog. So going back into I'm a PK, so I'm a pastor's kid. So going back into my word, I looked at it and was like, all right, well, I can align this with David. And that's why on the cover of the book, you see a slingshot, because David is one of my favorite underdogs. And so what you'll find in underdog mentality is that there's other underdogs in there, like Steph Curry, even LeBron James. I mentioned him, just to like help our audience understand that we are underdogs and we're expected to not win, right? But when we dig deep inside of ourselves and we stand on what has happened in our lives and use it for our good, then we can go and face whatever challenge in front of us. Like my future bout, if I ever have another bout with depression or anxiety, I can look at it and say, nah, like I've defeated you before, so I'm gonna defeat you this time as well. You may get a blow in. Don't get me wrong, like
we all have those days.
Yeah, like you might jab me,
yeah,
and I might buckle a little bit, but you're not gonna knock me out, and you're not gonna win. Right. I'm just gonna go take a shower real quick. Come back.
Retreat when necessary, right?
There you go. Now that and that's another thing that's funny. I'm glad you said that, because the word underdog is broken down as an acronym, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but yes, the letter R is retreat when necessary. Sometimes we have to retreat. Like I had to retreat a couple of times in my life, and I had to take a step back and realize, okay, you tried, it didn't work. All right, let's figure something else out. and then let's see what other vehicle is out there for you to drive.
Right.
The good thing is,
Or plane.
or plane to fly. I love that. By the way. What are you gonna do next? How are you gonna soar? How are you gonna coast into something else?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm excited about this book. It has blessed a lot of people. It has sowed some really good seeds to help others understand that at the end of the day, no matter the day or the weather, all things are working together. So
It's a cool book, and we're going to give out some. So Kenny was awesome, and we have 4. I have to give one to Christina. It's fine.
Yeah,
so now you have 3 copies.
not a problem at all.
Well, we got 5, but we can do more. But we have 3 copies that are going to be given out. And really what you have to do is when you listen to this episode, share it on your social media and tag True Print for Life podcast. And we're going to follow that. We're going to take a look at that. I know a lot of you send us text messages with your reviews and your feedback, and we love that. So one of you probably will get one too. But we definitely want to give those out once the episode, once you hear this. Tag us on social media, and you're going to get a copy of this awesome book, which actually this famous, awesome author already signed for you. So you're getting a signed copy. This is history in the making. So super excited. Thank you, Kenny, for that.
No problem at all.
I saw some cool pictures with you and Mr. LeBron. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Again, you just don't know what's on the other side of these leap of faiths. It's just one of those things where you never know who's watching. So my brother is friends with someone that works close to the family, and they are working with the AAU program, Strive for Greatness, and they were going to be in town in Akron. I think it was the 4th of July weekend, and so they reached out and said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming to speak to our teams while we are in town?" And I'm like, absolutely. That's what I do all day, every day.
Right.
Is I'm constantly, speaking to a school or speaking to a sports team. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm not going to, turn that opportunity down. So we went up there the weekend of the holiday and was able to, I was able to speak and have some intimate time at the LeBron James Arena, speaking to his 17U team, and was able to present them with signed copies of the book, and his 15U team as well. And it was an incredible experience to have that moment in this historic locker room where, arguably one of the greatest players of all time,
Right.
Played his high school ball. But it was even special and more special when our family got a chance to meet him and spend some time with him. And then I had a personal conversation with him as well. And it was a conversation that changed my life because we spent, which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, we spent most of our time talking about servant leadership.
Wow.
And I mean, to be aligned with someone who has done so much for not just his family, but I mean, darn near like the world, because I mean, he's just so impactful with the way that he gives. And my goal is to be a full-time philanthropist. And it's obviously that's what one of his passions are, and he's doing that. But for him to give me that time and to allow me to take a cool picture with him and his entire AAU program, that's one of my highlights. Like I'll cherish that experience forever. There's more that we're going to do in the near future that I'm excited about, but that was like my aha moment. And then the experience with the family, that was cool. KJ, he kind of acts like, all right, what's up, LeBron? Because he's met several, stars in his short, time here. Kennedy was like, oh yeah, this is a big deal. And Rolando, of course, is like, oh my goodness, like this is LeBron. Yeah, but I'm excited about what's to come. Shout out to Strive for Greatness and LeBron for even allowing me to have that experience with them. I'm looking forward to doing more with them.
Could you see 828 like really big on the skyline?
That day? I did. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did, because it really, I didn't think that I would go from working with, but here's one thing I want to share to all my speakers out there, all my mentors, all my coaches. Continue to sow good seeds, because no one saw and no one really pays attention to all the times I've spoken to a group of like 3 kids, or the times where I was doing like chapel for kindergartners, or the conversations that I'm having with people outside of my demographic. I've had the experience to, or the privilege to serve domestic violence men offenders and the program that they go through to get themselves back on track. That's outside of my scope of who I serve. But I do those things because I understand that there's some good seeds I need to be sowing in that space. And I'm just trying to be obedient to the assignment. So when I say that I had my 828 moment, because it really did work together for my good. Like that was my harvest. That was my reward to have that moment with LeBron. I mean, he's an incredible guy.
I could tell. I watched the Barbershop series on HBO.
Yeah.
And that was my first real, like, you see the athlete stuff, and I've always heard him speak, but I think the series with the Barbershop really opened up, like, really how LeBron thinks and
who he is
and what he really is trying, like, beyond the athlete, like we were talking about earlier, like you can tell like he really is focused on his come up being everybody's come up at least.
And that's exactly how it is. Everybody around him, there's no handouts.
Right.
It's more they're all partnerships.
Right.
And they're doing very, very well in their own creative spaces.
Right.
That's what leadership is about. He's empowered so many people, and to see it in person like that and to just watch how people are functioning at such a high level, it's because they know that, like, look, this guy he didn't have to do this, but he did, and he's wanting the best for all of us, but he's doing an incredible job. So I can't say nothing bad about that guy.
Well, next time LeBron hits you up, we
actually we're available as well.
Let's do it.
We could pass out waters. I mean,
we're serving leaders as well.
Absolutely. Mess around. We can have a conversation on the podcast.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, I know we're almost out of time, but I mean, we could probably talk to you forever. There's so much good content. There's so much that you really, truly, have to share. And so are you able to share with us, like, kind of what's next for Kenny Hampton? Like, I mean, you mentioned a little bit about some things coming, like your book is out, you're speaking. Is there something like that's coming up next, or something that people can kind of just be on the lookout for?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more together talks. I'm going to be doing a lot more of those, and they're not going to always include other people. Most times they're going to just be myself having a conversation with myself. I'm in this space right now where I'm focused on two words, and it's strength and management. I want to strengthen some of my weaknesses, because we all have them. Sometimes we put them aside because we just don't want to be, honest with ourselves and say, hey, I'm weak in this area, but I want to get stronger and be at a high level, spirit, mind, body, financial, all of that. But I also need to do a better job of managing what I have. While I'm trying to pursue more, I'm not going to ever receive it if I don't be a good steward of what I got.
Right.
Because success and wealth, all of that, it's attracted to management. And if you notice that, like finances, if you notice that wealth seems to always like go the opposite direction when you show up, it's because it doesn't trust you. It doesn't trust that you're going to take care of it. And whatever you don't manage, you'll lose. So I'm in a space right now where a lot of men are asking me, hey, can you share more about what you're doing? Can you talk a little bit more about these things? I like your content. I love this. I love that. I have to now be more responsible and share those things. But I'm not going to share from here's what you need to be doing. It's going to be shared from, I'm just going to invite you into a conversation between myself and I, and that's it. That way you don't feel like I'm looking down on you. You don't feel like I'm talking at you at all. I literally just allowed you to come in and be a part of this conversation and observe and listen. But that's it. So you're going to hear more Together Talks from me via YouTube. They'll be shared on my social media platforms, which is just Kenny R. Hampton across the board. And I'm excited about it. We'll have some guests, and I think the three of us should explore how that'll look for us as well. I would love to do a together talk with you, because it seems like we always find ourselves crossing paths and doing some things. Yeah, so I would love to do that, and I know that it's going to add a lot of value in the lives of other people, which is our number one focus. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And people can sign up for your newsletter. So if they go to your website, right, they can see what's going on with you. I love, that's how I'm like, wait a minute. when is that coming out?
Yeah.
So that's a good way to stay with you. And definitely get the book. I encourage everyone. I think women, of course, because I think we want to help understand men, but men should get the book. I think you really have a way to find some support. Sometimes it's hard to ask for support when you're a woman, and even sometimes harder as a man. But right now you have a vehicle. Right now you have a book that can probably relate to you. You have a great, I call him dope man here, that is willing and open to talk with you and talk, share, listen. So please reach out to him if you want to have conversations with him. I think our youth also needs to hear from you. I think our youth really could benefit. And that's some of the things coming up that I can see ourselves working together to really support our young people, and not just in Ohio, but probably worldwide. So stay tuned, everyone, for cool things to come.
Let's do it.
And then we have a question, right, that we ask our guests at the end, is just like, where you are now. Mm-hmm. You are 4 years old, maybe even a little bit higher. What advice would you give your younger self?
Advice I would give little Kenny, because I was called little Kenny. Some people are still calling me little Kenny when I go back home to Detroit. And it's like,
and they're like, hey, little Kenny.
Yeah, like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I'm the tallest person on my dad's family. So it's just like funny how they still call me little Kenny. But what advice would I give little Kenny? I think the advice that I would give little Kenny is to give a little bit more to yourself. I gave, and I still do to this day. I do things because I'm always thinking of someone else. But as I mature as a man, I'm now starting to learn that self-care is extremely important. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I believe that if we instill that in our youth at a younger age, then it will help with some of the struggles that we are experiencing as teenagers and, as millennials or adults and things like that, young adults, I should say, because you'll be accustomed to doing it. Like, wait, let me take time out. I gotta pour into me because right now I'm a little thin. I'm empty. Right. So let me put a little bit more focus, and you can still be a servant leader. But you got to have something inside of you in order for you to turn around and pour into someone else. That would be the advice that I would give to little Kenny. But I'm getting better at that now as we speak.
We all are.
Yeah. I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm working on it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. And we're excited to hopefully have you in the future come to yours, right?
Absolutely.
And be part of yours.
Absolutely.
As we close, we have a phrase that we say, which is bigger than you. That's the phrase. Okay. So we do it together because we're cool like that. So I will count to 3. And then together we're going to say it's bigger than you.
Cool.
So are you ready?
I am.
Okay. It's bigger than you.